1943.
One man, and one man alone, ordered Italian soldiers to ravage their neighbor's vineyard. One man, and one man alone, resolved to plunge Italy into the whirlpool of war. The crafty, cold-blooded, black-hearted Italian who had thought to gain an empire on the cheap.
The African War is over. Mussolini's empire and Corporal Hitler's strategy are alike exploded. One continent at least has been purged forever from fascist or Nazi tyranny. Of the Axis forces, a great part has been taken prisoner. What remains has withdrawn to Sicily and Italy to regroup and to brace for the next Allied offensive.
The first objective was to get Italy out of the war. The collapse of Italy would cast a chill of loneliness over the German people and might be the beginning of their doom.
American reporters questioned Churchill as to what tactics he expects to apply to the Italians. The Prime Minister replied,
"We shall continue to operate on the Italian donkey at both ends, with a carrot and with a stick."
Winston Churchill, the Valiant years, will continue in a moment.
I was in Washington in May 1943.
For the weekend of May the 15th, the President proposed to take me to Shangri-La, the mountain refuge in Maryland, where he sheltered whenever the chance offered itself. After 2 hours, we approached Fredericktown. I now made inquiries about Barbara Fritzsche and her house. When it was clear that no one else would, I started to recite. Up rose old Barbara Fritzsche then, bowed with her 80 years and 10. Bravest of all in Fredericktown, she took up the flag that the men hauled down. Up the street came the rebel tread, Stonewall Jackson riding ahead. And then I went on, shoot if you will this old gray head, but spare your country's flag. At this point, they all joined in the chorus, she said.
May 19, 1943. Churchill addresses Congress.
It behoved us, therefore, to search our hearts and brace our sinews, and take the most earnest counsel one with another, in order that the favorable position which has already been reached, both against Japan and against Hitler and Mussolini in Europe, shall not be let slip.
No final decision is made as to the best means of coping with the Italian problem. One of Mr. Churchill's personal secretaries at the White House was Peter Kinner.
I remember on one occasion when we were in the White House in Washington, Sir Winston wished to dictate to me while he was still in the bath. He kept submerging rather like a seal and coming up again and dictating some more. And in due course, the bath was finished and he was wrapped up in his bath towel, walked back to his bedroom, followed by me, notebook in hand, and dictation continued. He paced up and down the bedroom, and eventually the bath towel fell off, and he was just as he was born. Rat-a-tat-tat at the door, in was wheeled President Roosevelt. Both the President and Sir Winston naturally were very amused by this, but I remember Winston saying, "You see, Mr. President, I have nothing to conceal from you."
The President had not seemed ready to press his advisors to become more precise on the invasion of Italy. But as this was the main purpose for which I had crossed the Atlantic, I could not let the matter rest.
On May 26, Churchill, accompanied by his military chiefs and General Marshall, takes off from the Potomac River. In General Eisenhower's villa in Algiers, Churchill and the Allied military leaders arrive at a positive decision to invade Italy following the conquest of Sicily.
The sense of victory was in the air. There is no doubt that people like winning very much.
After mapping the strategy for Sicily and the future invasion of Italy, Churchill flies back to England via Gibraltar and Lisbon.
The daily commercial aircraft was about to start from Lisbon airfield when a thick-set man smoking a cigar walked up and was thought to be a passenger on it. German agents signaled that I was on board.
A German warplane is instantly ordered out. And the defenseless aircraft is ruthlessly shot down. 14 passengers perish. Among them, the well-known British film actor Leslie Howard.
On the morning of July the 9th, the great armadas from east and west were converging south of Malta, and it was time for all to steam for the beaches of Sicily.
Churchill tries to go along with the British forces, but the King of England intervenes to prevent it. The German and Italian forces are forced to fall back in Sicily. The Italians have no stomach for the fighting. They surrender by the thousands. But the Germans fight fiercely and inflict heavy casualties on the Americans and British. Churchill addresses the Italian people.
Your soldiers have fought not in the interests of Italy, but for Nazi Germany. They have been betrayed by the Germans on the Russian front and on every battlefield in Africa, from El Alamein to Cape Bon.
Italy's puppet king, Victor Emmanuel, who has been kept on the throne by Mussolini, now plans the downfall of the Italian dictator. The king plots with his military chief of staff, Marshal Pietro Badoglio.
The king said, "My dear Duce, it's no longer any good. The soldiers don't want to fight anymore. At this moment, you are the most hated man in Italy." I have been thinking that the man for the job now is Marshal Badoglio.
The Duce is banished to the island of Ponza.
Thus ended Mussolini's 21 years dictatorship in Italy. His fatal mistake was the declaration of war on France and Great Britain in June 1940. He never understood the strength of Britain, nor the long-enduring qualities of our island resistance and sea power. Thus, he marched to ruin.
The Germans send more troops into Italy to strengthen their position. The Allies face a fierce and desperate enemy.
Now that Mussolini is gone, I will deal with any Italian authority which can deliver the goods. The whole country being virtually under German occupation, the Allied High Command perceived that the Italian government did not have the courage to sign an armistice unless convinced of the overwhelming strength of the Anglo-American attack upon the mainland of Italy.
The battle for Italy hangs in the balance.
Winston Winston Churchill, the Valiant years.
Roosevelt meet in Quebec. Plans for an attack on the Italian mainland are drawn up. The invasion plan of the Italian mainland is designed to capture the ports of Naples and Taranto as quickly as possible. The first assault will cross the Straits of Messina and move on toward Taranto. The second assault will land on the beaches of Salerno with the purpose of driving on to capture Naples. Exactly 4 years to the day after Winston Churchill's return to power as First Lord of the Admiralty, the British Eighth Army crosses the Straits of Messina and returns to the continent.
The American General Taylor of the 82nd Airborne Division was sent to Rome on September the 7th on a secret mission.
I left Palermo with my comrade Colonel Tudor Gardner of the Air Force in the middle of the night in a British speedboat. We rendezvoused at dawn with an Italian corvette north of Palermo, and then went up the Tyrrhenian Sea to the port of Gaeta, which is between Naples and Rome. There, the two of us were taken ashore under the guise of being prisoners of war and put in an ambulance and then conducted up the Appian Highway into Rome itself. We entered Rome just at dusk. The streets seemed normal, although there were many German troops walking about the streets, sometimes stopping in close proximity of our ambulance. Colonel Gardner and I insisted upon being taken in the middle of the night to see Badoglio, the head of the Italian government. We had a long discussion with Badoglio, who unfortunately showed the same pessimistic attitude as his generals. He emphasized the fact that the Italian divisions were without ammunition and without gasoline, and were being watched very closely by a number of German divisions in the vicinity. I was obliged, therefore, to radio Algiers by a clandestine radio that I recommended the cancellation of the airborne attack on Rome and that I be allowed to return.
With the collapse of the airborne mission on Rome, a new question arises. Should the main Allied amphibious attack at Salerno be put off?
Eisenhower had to make a quick decision. The attack on Salerno was due to be launched within 24 hours. He therefore telegraphed to the combined chiefs of staff, "We intend to proceed with the announcement of the armistice and subsequent other measures." As the Allied Armada approached the Salerno beaches, they heard the announcement of the Italian surrender.
This is General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Commander-in-Chief of the Allied force. The Italian government has surrendered its armed forces unconditionally. As Allied Commander-in-Chief, I have granted a military armistice, the terms of which have been approved by the governments of the United Kingdom, the United States, and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Thus, I am acting in the interest of the United Nations. The Italian government has bound itself to abide by these terms without reservation. The armistice was signed by my representative and the representative of Marshal Badoglio, and it becomes effective this instant.
Men keyed up for battle, the news came as a shock, which for the moment had an unfortunate psychological effect. Many thought that on the morrow their task would be a walkover.
German troops pour into the neighborhood of Salerno and await the assault.
Various reports which reached me made me feel most anxious. My concern was all the greater because I had always pressed for this seaborne landing and felt special responsibility for its success.
Success depends on surprise, and at Salerno, the element of surprise has been lost. For 5 days, Nazi planes batter the invasion fleet.
After 6 days of bitter fighting, in which we suffered moments of grave hazard, the Germans failed to throw us back into the sea. On the 15th, Kesselring realized he could not succeed, and he began to swing his whole line back. On September the 21st, I sent my congratulations to General Eisenhower and asked him to convey my compliments to General Clark. We certainly do work together in a way never before seen among allies. Once the Battle of Salerno had been won, Naples lay before us. The British 10th Corps, with the United States 6th Corps on their right, drove back the enemy's rear guards around Vesuvius, marched past the ruins of Pompeii, and entered Naples.
Naples, the first major city on the continent to be liberated. From the north of Italy comes extraordinary news. Mussolini has been moved from the island of Ponza to a small mountain resort in central Italy. On September 12, 90 German parachutists land by glider. Rescue the former Duce and fly him away to Germany. September 28, Marshal Badoglio officially surrenders to General Eisenhower. October 13, 1943, the new Italian government declares war on its former ally, Germany. The turning point of the war has been reached. Churchill broadcast to the underground fighters in northern Italy.
People of Italy, now is the time for every Italian to strike his blow. The liberating armies are coming to your rescue. The German terror in Italy will not last long. They will be extirpated from your land. Take every chance you can. Strike hard, and strike home. Have faith in your future. March forward with your American and British friends in the great world movement toward freedom, justice, and peace.